These are the dogs that would take the leash off and walk you. Because a lot of y'all have gotten way too confident. I've said it before, but one way to see how a guy's mind works is to ask him, what's the biggest animal you could beat in a fight? And if you want to see how highly he thinks of himself, ask him, what's the biggest dog he could take down? Or if there's even one alive that he couldn't. TikTok has taught me a majority of y'all are KOing anything canine. Allegedly. Now in their defense, there's over 350 breeds of dogs and the average man is bodying most of them. Dogs are built for friendship, some quite literally, and they're descended from a pack hunter who really isn't about the one-on-ones. Plus, dogs have one real way of delivering damage, and unless they have the size to make up for it, most dogs can't go band for band with the average man. The thing about size. Some canines are big enough to take you off the registry. Once dogs hit that 140 to 150 pound range, they go from a loud inconvenience to something whose free will could potentially put you in a dirt motel. Bigger than that, and you got the kind of dog where every breath you take is by his blessing. Real quick, this isn't to demonize any breed or inspire you to test your luck against your dog. And also, don't take this too seriously. I know Fantasy Fight Club loves hills to die on. But first we got the Kangal Shepherd is a Turkish Fido flex bred as a livestock guardian dog against jackals, wolves, and bears. Males on average get from 110 to 150 pounds, but ask around. Someone will tell you about their 180 pound attitude adjustment. An important distinction is that these aren't herding dogs, they're guarding dogs. The canine insurance policy pretty much are part of the herd, and any predators that flock around very quickly find out. Kangals will defend theirs in any situation, and while the cellmate of Cerberus prefers intimidation, they'll catch a clean body if it gets there. The catch is, since Kangals are built to defend the defenseless, they're unironically really good with children. But with a temper more trigger-happy than the state of Texas, nothing steps to a member of a Kangal's herd without getting read in an obituary. Apparently, some Kangals have snapped at their owners for getting too close to their own sheep. With Kangals having the strongest bite of any dog at an alleged 743 pounds per square inch, a snap from a helicoptering horsehound hits much different. They're so protective, they even protect some of the predators they were hired against. In Namibia, ranchers and cheetahs share an area code, and in a world where a dead cow can set your entire family back, many cheetahs become chalk outlines in the name of asset protection. But having Kangals and Anatolians on site, which as far as I understand are Americanized Kangals, the cheetahs get run off by canine conflict resolution before the ranchers have to reach for a permanent solution. The Kangal option actually reduced cheetah trappings and killings by 80%, and in some places they're providing the same deterrent service to wolves. So all in all, they're still a good dog, just not for everyone. And not just because they need space, experience, and most importantly a purpose, they need discipline, because gentle parenting means Turkish Tank rips your arm out of the socket the first time he sees a squirrel. This fluffy boulder would send you back to the mountains they spawned from. Forged in the mountains of Caucasus, the Caucasian Shepherd is also called the Russian bear dog, even though they're not Russian, and you're liable for a lecture if you call them that in front of the wrong person. They also weren't bred to hunt bears, they're also livestock life insurance. It's just that calorie blocking a bear might just come with a job description. The blow-dry Tasmanian devil comes in two forms, the longer coated mountain type and the shorter coated steppe version. The mountain brand are the big boys, and usually the ones that can get to over 200 pounds. And I promise you, you are not choking out a Wolverine on creatine with war experience. The dog, also called the ovcharka, was used in World War II as Soviet Union guards that would gatekeep Soviet gulags. So they might not send you there, but they'll keep you in its custody. So even though they didn't originate in Russia, before the Soviet Union developed an atomic bomb, they mobilized a furry nuke in the form of Fido. Also, a good amount would patrol the Berlin Wall, and after the wall came down and the dogs were adopted out, many of the veterans would suddenly remember their orders whenever near the past tense wall and would robotically walk in obedience to a wall that wasn't there. So yeah, folks messed around and created an absolute unit of a sleeper agent, and it isn't until you have about 200 pounds of dog resisting your will that you realize what the mountains of Caucasus were cooking. There's a reason this domesticated bear is used in Russian prisons. Imagine packs of ovcharkas roaming the city of Berlin at the expense of anyone unlucky enough to run into them. Well, you don't need imagination. For one of the dogs next, it's a reality. This is honestly the first place my mind went after hearing about the man versus dog debate. You tell him to sit, he looks at you like this. What is your next move? Daikujo decides to climb on your couch where he knows he's not allowed. What is your vehicle of retribution? I pray it's not a rolled up newspaper. He's gonna make you a small section of the next one. Latin is like a linguistic black light that tells the full story of a word, and when you shine it on Cane Corso, canis is dog, and corso or cohors refers to guard, specifically a military guard dog. Corsos, or actually corsi, are kind of the guard dog, and they're descended from ancient Roman war dogs known as Canis pugnax. For Corsi, the Italian Mastiff would attack enemy lines in battle with buckets of flaming, scalding hot oil strapped to their backs. Fun fact, in my culture, cani is the name of a spice you put on dishes, and to me it's all good, but to someone who's never had it before or doesn't know how to handle it, it can be an overseasoned assault on the senses. Same story with the uber black of dogs. Handle them wrong and they're a one-way trip straight to Valhalla. And with many over 120 pounds, I do believe every conscious breath you take is with their consent. Again, they're guard dogs that protect their pack, and within it, they're docile family dogs that you can trust with the kids. But the same dog that can tear a wild boar in half like a phone book would absolutely turn you into coffin fodder in a fight. This might be the most underrated dog out here. First time I saw one, I genuinely thought it was a customized cane. And while they look similar, at up to and often over 140 pounds, the Presa Canario somehow tankier than the canine Italian stallion. Don't get it twisted, the Spanish Mastiff off the Canary Islands is 404ing most men. They just might have been brought over by Spanish conquistadors, and they were admired for their intelligence, toughness, and like a fitted sheet they won't fold. But they were also bred specifically to exterminate wild or stray dogs. And that's something I'm gonna touch on later, because LGDs like Ovchakas, they're not meant to murk predators, just discourage them. They bred the Presa Canario to erase other dogs. That's basically a canine assassin. The hired gun was also a reoccurring character in dogfighting rings, even after it was criminalized. Because of this, the pride of the Canary Islands almost went extinct in the 60s. Luckily, a breed society, Club Español de Presa Canario, was formed, and they came up with a breed standard. The standard was approved in '89, and the Presa Canario was recognized as the official dog of the Canary Islands. The goal was to help the Presa make a comeback, and today they're still going strong. They have a lifespan that can last over a decade, despite all the nerfs that come with being a big dog. Which means we're talking about the dog that has fought its own kind, its own biology, and literal extinction. Not the type I want to start problems with. Now let the record show that the muscle of canary is the equivalent of a canine wet wipe around family, but any burglars getting blacklisted from the census. Once upon a time, a zoo in China caught heat for trying to pass off a dog as an African lion. Oh, it didn't last long and they were for sure wrong, but when you squint at a Tibetan Mastiff, you see their inspiration. This woolly mammoth is one of the oldest dog breeds alive, and they were used to protect Buddhist monasteries and Tibetan monks from apex threats like wolves, bears, and snow leopards. Traditionally, the hound of the Himalayas would sleep all day and patrol the villages at night, so if you take in a Tibetan Mastiff, you may find their habits nocturnal. They're built different. I'm talking genetically sequenced abnormally. Back in the day, Tibetan Mastiffs were bred with Tibetan wolves because the dogs have a special protein that helps red blood cells carry oxygen 50% more efficiently. This mutation does not appear in other dogs, but you do see it in the Tibetan subspecies of gray wolf, which is why the sentient hair salon pile can survive such a high altitude. It's not hard to see how a full-grown literal Clifford can send wolves running. And that's what I wanted to mention. These are guardian dogs, not attack dogs. They don't want you dead, necessarily. Just gone. They're not out here looking for smoke, and if you have one, you'll find that the most dangerous thing about them is the constant slobbering can be a slip hazard. But there's a catch. The Tibetan Mastiff wasn't just insurance, they were a status symbol, especially in China. One named Big Splash sold for $1.5 million, so they can ruin you physically and financially. The problem is, like all fads, the TM hype faded fast, and the outcome was more abandoned Mastiffs than anyone knew what to do with. Except the dogs. The Tibetan persuasion started forming feral packs where they've killed livestock, hunted native Baral sheep, and even attacked ancient enemies like snow leopards, bears, and now even humans. Now we've got thousands of feral uber dogs roaming the Tibetan plateau, making life air-conditioned hell for snow leopards and putting paws and jaws in any people that happen to cross their paths. It's basically what happened to pigeons in America, but I've never seen a pigeon lil bro a wolf. I don't know what's with all the videos of Tibetan Mastiffs and wolves in the same place, but I have not seen one where the dog doesn't completely bully the albeit smaller Asian wolves. And speaking of wolves, at least the wild ones are afraid of humans. We genetically engineered a weapon of mass destruction. And it's completely our fault. Mastiffs in general are a canine flex. They'll have you mad stiff. As in rigor mortis, the bull mastiff looks like a sweetheart that could genuinely bench press your family. The Neapolitan Mastiff was literally built on honey badger principles. Loose skin so that even when clamped, they can always turn around and face their problems. But it also makes them look like a victimized pizza pie, cheese sliding right off. But we can't forget the English Mastiff, one of the few dogs that could successfully maul a wolf. For reference, the Beast from Sandlot was an English Mastiff, and the record for the heaviest dog is held by Ika Mazorba, an English Stiffy weighing 343 pounds. And of course, we can't forget my favorite Mastiff, and honestly dog, the Rottweiler. This Rizzohund is an easy attitude adjustment for any man that thinks he can whoop any dog. But one dog you would absolutely get worked by is... The Boer Bull is a massive 200-pound vibe check of a pet. They were bred as a South African farm dog to protect the home against threats like leopards and even baboons. Ironically, it's the baboons I'm impressed by. You see, there's a lot of stories about this farmer dog, aura, as the kids say. There's one story of a Boer Bull life-depriving 4 leopards in a row before losing to a 5th. Another story goes like this. The king of Albania gifted Alexander the Great a massive Boer Bull, but when Alex tried to get the dog to hunt, the dog seemingly refused, so Mr. Macedon did the sensible thing and murked the dog for insolence. Until the king said the dog wasn't lazy, just bored, and that these dogs were meant to hunt big game. Like elephant big. So apparently they sent a replacement, and this Boer Bull won Alexander over after breaking a lion's back and forcing an elephant off a cliff. Do I believe it? Absolutely not, but it helps my narrative if I pretend I do. What is true is the same Boer Bull that squares up with big cats and baboons also has the personality of a weighted blanket, unless you threaten their family, in which case they'll put you in an ashtray. They're basically a guard dog that got promoted and invited out to hunts, which is actually the opposite of... The Rhodesian Ridgeback might seem like a token pick, but hear me out. They're the inverse of Boer Bulls. They were so good at hunting, they eventually got promoted to guards. With a max weight of like 120 pounds, the Ridgeback is the lightest dog in this video. They get the nod because they were used to hunt lions, along with the usual suspects like wild pigs and baboons. Now I should probably explain, when I say hunt lions, I don't mean these dogs were out here giving Simba the belt to butt. There isn't a dog alive that can beat a lion. No dog exists that can 1v1 a bear, and pretty much all would get folded by a full-grown all-American Northwestern wolf. By hunting, really the Rhodesian Ridgebacks would bay the lions, not straight up attack them, but harass them, applying constant pressure until eventually the hunters showed up. The best way I can explain it is these wolves mobbing a black bear and basically escorting him away from their pups hidden in the grass. Rhodesians more so keep the lion in one place, which is arguably just as impressive. It takes a lot of intelligence to pin a predator 5 times your size, and yeah, Ridgebacks are creepily smart. Ask around, some will even say they're human. And that's a level of intelligence I'm not trying to deal with. One thing I do love is a dog that went against literal lions is also mad sensitive. They do not respond well to harshness, and you unironically have to watch how you talk to them because they will take it personally. They're basically gifted teenagers. They're not for the discipline, so you better keep it positive. You know, I almost forgot to mention the Dogo Argentino. A mistake that would have been. Basically, a teenager in the 1920s unlocked free will and decided to create the best possible hunter dog. He took traits like the scent tracking of a pointer, the height of a Great Dane, the Tibetan Mastiff's calm temperament, and the boxer's overall athleticism, and crossbred them with the now extinct Cordoba fighting dog. Eventually, he created an Argentinian Mastiff, and to prove its strength, he pitted his dog against a wild boar and a mountain lion, gladiator style. Only the dog made it out. And I wouldn't even believe that if it wasn't for the story of Morocho, the Dogo Argentino, allegedly killing a puma to save his 2 human girls. Allegedly, because I'm not entirely sure it's true. I still can't see one soloing a healthy mountain lion, but the narrative has been set. So W Morocho. They might not be the biggest, but it's an explosive cannonball of a canine athlete that could overwhelm a grown man on the right day. They're tough enough to endure hours of trekking through rough terrain and still have enough juice to wrestle an animal 3 times its size. But if I ever saw this in an alley, my soul would auto-connect to the Wi-Fi in the sky. Now that's real Bluetooth. By now, you probably recognize the pattern. If a dog was bred as a livestock guardian in the mountains, it's likely the last dog you ever want issues with. And that is everything the Central Asian Shepherd dog is. The CAS, or Alibi, is another LGD spawning from Central Asia, and one of the few dogs that could honestly be confused with a polar bear. And while most of the dogs here are a matter of speculation and my personal bias, with the symbol of canine country strength often weighing over 200 pounds, a full-grown specimen motivated by malicious intent would dismantle an able-bodied man. And as one of the oldest dogs, humans didn't really do that much to breed them. They were honestly bred more by the harsh environment than anything. Just an overall unit of everything a dog can be, and likely the biggest dog most people have never heard of. Again, this isn't to demonize any breed in particular. I just figured the man versus dog thing gave me an excuse to talk about him, and I don't think I ever did make a dog video, so, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone and stuff. And if you're a man who thinks they can solo everything on this list, you got it. Don't take it too serious, although I haven't made an animal versus animal video in a minute. Now there's an idea. Reminder that I have a book rating animals by how likely they are to murk you, and dogs are on there. Their rating might just surprise you, but that's gonna do it. Drink water, hug your mother, always research the breed before you end up with a bear in your backseat. Acknowledge my shirt, please, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Gray! What the f*** are you doing? How did you get up there?